My son asked if I got my $8,000 allowance. I stared at him across the Christmas dinner table. $8,000? What allowance? I've been living on my firefighter pension and Social Security for 3 years now. Brittany, my daughter-in-law, went completely white. Her fork clattered against her plate. What allowance, Michael? I asked quietly. You know, Dad, the monthly allowance we've been sending for your charity work. Brittany handles all that. He looked confused. The Morrison Family Foundation donations? I smiled. Not angry, not hurt, just interested. Morrison Family Foundation, I repeated slowly. That's fascinating. Brittany's hand was shaking as she reached for her wine glass. She knocked it over. Red wine spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Dad, you remember, she said quickly. We discussed this last year. The charitable giving in your name. I kept smiling, because what she didn't know was that I'd already spent 2 weeks investigating every single penny. It started in March. That's when I began noticing things. Brittany would interrupt me mid-sentence during family dinners. James, that's not how modern philanthropy works. She'd explain to Michael like I wasn't sitting right there. Your father has such traditional ideas about money management. She posted constantly on Instagram. 12,000 followers hanging on every word about her generous family's charitable initiatives. Photos of her at fancy charity lunches, always mentioning the Morrison Family Foundation in her captions. I never saw a single photo of myself at these events, because I'd never been invited to any of them. The charity newsletters started arriving in September. Glossy, professional-looking things addressed to James Morrison, founding board member. I'd stare at my name printed in elegant fonts, announcing donations I'd never authorized. Amounts I'd never seen. Brittany, I'd ask during our monthly family dinners, when exactly did we establish this foundation? She'd wave her hand dismissively. Oh, James, you signed all the paperwork last Christmas. Don't you remember? Michael helped explain everything. She'd turn to my son. Honey, remind your father about the tax benefits. Michael would nod along. He trusted his wife completely. Always had, since they married 4 years ago. Brilliant surgeon, my boy. But when it came to money, he let Brittany handle everything. Dad, you were so excited about the giving strategy, he'd say. Remember? You said it was time to give back to the community that supported you during Mom's illness. I did want to give back. Always had. But on my terms. With my knowledge. Using money I actually possessed. The country club applications came next. Westchester Country Club. Brittany had listed herself as Treasurer, Morrison Family Foundation, and Michael as President. Well, my name appeared as Founding Chairman Emeritus. I'd driven past that club exactly once in my life. The membership fee alone cost more than my entire annual pension. We're building our community profile, Brittany explained when I found the paperwork on their kitchen counter. Networking is essential for effective charitable work, James. You wouldn't understand the social complexities. Social complexities. Like I hadn't spent 35 years navigating the politics of the FDNY. Like I hadn't earned respect from commissioners and captains and mayors. But apparently that didn't count in Brittany's world. She'd correct my grammar at dinner parties. When I'd mention my firefighting days, she'd smile condescendingly and change the subject to her latest charity board appointment. The Westchester Women's Auxiliary. The Children's Hospital Gala Committee. Always dropping names of people I'd never heard of. James comes from a different generation, she'd tell her friends when she thought I wasn't listening. Blue-collar work ethic, very earnest. Earnest. Like that was something embarrassing. The Instagram posts got worse through the fall. Pictures of her wearing designer dresses at charity events, captions mentioning our family's commitment to giving back, and continuing the Morrison legacy of service. She'd tagged the supposed foundation account, which had 847 followers, and posted stock photos of happy families volunteering. I tried following the foundation account myself. The posts were generic, no specific projects, no actual beneficiaries, just feel-good quotes about generosity and community impact, posted every few days like clockwork. When I asked Brittany for details about which organizations we were supporting, she'd get defensive. James, you don't need to micromanage every detail. That's why we have proper financial management now. You just focus on enjoying your retirement. Enjoying my retirement, while she spent money in my name. Money I'd never authorized. Money I'd never even seen. The final straw came in November. A local newspaper feature about Westchester's most generous young families. There was Brittany, photographed in their marble foyer, talking about our family foundation's community impact and continuing her father-in-law's tradition of service. My tradition of service turned into her photo opportunity. The article quoted her extensively. James Morrison spent decades protecting this community as a firefighter. Now, through our foundation, we're continuing that legacy of protection through strategic charitable giving. It's what he would have wanted. What he would have wanted. Like I was already dead. I called the newspaper, asked to speak with the reporter. Mr. Morrison, so nice to hear from you directly. Your daughter-in-law spoke so passionately about your foundation's work. You must be very proud. Can you tell me, I said carefully, exactly how much money she said our foundation donated last year? Oh, she was modest about the specific amounts. Said your family prefers to give quietly, but she mentioned it was substantial. Enough to make a real community impact. Substantial. Quiet giving. Community impact. I hung up and sat in my kitchen for an hour, staring at that newspaper article, at Brittany's confident smile, at quotes about my legacy that I'd never spoken. That's when I knew I needed help. Professional help. Because either I was losing my mind, or my daughter-in-law had been running a very sophisticated con game using my name, my reputation, and apparently my family's money. The charity newsletters kept coming. Professional letterhead, gold embossing, my name prominently featured as founding board member of an organization I'd never heard of until 6 months ago. But what I discovered next would destroy everything. That phone call changed everything. It was December 1st, a Friday afternoon. I was in my kitchen making coffee when I heard Brittany's voice through the thin walls of Michael's home office. They live in the house next door. Close enough that I could hear her when she got animated. She was on speakerphone, laughing. "Girl, you have no idea how easy this has been," she said. Her voice carried that particular tone she used when she felt superior. "The old man doesn't even know we're donating his money in his name." I set down my coffee mug, moved closer to the shared wall. "Wait, what?" The other voice sounded confused. "Whose money?" "Michael's dad, James. We've been taking $8,000 every month for over a year now. Michael thinks it's going to his charity. James thinks, well, James doesn't think anything because he has no clue." Laughter from both women. "Brittany, that's... wow, how much are we talking about?" "Total? Over 100,000 at this point. Maybe 112? I stopped counting after the first 6 months. My chest went tight. $112,000. But what does Michael think is happening to the money? He thinks we're running this amazing family foundation, making his dad feel important in his old age. Giving dad purpose, you know? Men are so simple. Michael just sees the tax write-offs and assumes everything's legitimate. The other woman was quiet for a moment. And James has no idea? Please, the man spent his whole life following orders in the fire department. He's got this simple blue-collar brain that can't handle modern financial planning. I tell him something, he nods and forgets about it. Simple blue-collar brain. Besides, Brittany continued, what's he going to do? Start investigating? The man can barely figure out his iPhone. He's not exactly going to uncover some complex financial scheme. More laughter. You're terrible, Britt. But honestly, genius. So you're just keeping the money? Investment portfolio. I've been putting it into growth stocks, crypto, some real estate. Michael thinks I'm amazing at managing money, and technically it's all in family accounts, so it's not like it's illegal or anything. What about the foundation? The charity stuff? Total fiction. I made some letterhead, created a fake website, post some feel-good stuff on social media. Cost me maybe $50 a month to maintain the illusion. I was gripping the wall now. My legs felt unsteady. The best part, Brittany went on, is that James actually feels grateful. He thinks we're honoring his legacy of service or whatever. Sometimes he thanks me for handling all the complicated paperwork for him. Oh my God, Brittany. I know, right? And the social benefits are incredible. You should see how people treat me at the country club when I mention our family foundation. Instant respect. Everyone wants to network with the generous young philanthropist. You joined the country club? Of course. Had to build credibility for the foundation story. Listed myself as treasurer. Michael as president. James as some emeritus figurehead title. The membership committee was so impressed by our charitable giving, that they fast-tracked our application. The country club I'd driven past once in my life. The one that cost more per year than my entire pension. Wait, the friend said. Doesn't James ever ask questions? Like where the money's actually going? Brittany snorted. He tried a few times. I just use big words and talk about strategic partnerships and administrative overhead. His eyes glaze over. Then I remind Michael how grateful we should be that Dad trusts us to handle the complicated stuff. You're using Michael too? Michael's not being used. He's getting exactly what he wants. A wife who makes him look good socially, a father who seems happy and engaged, and tax benefits he doesn't have to think about. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. Except James, the friend pointed out. James gets to feel important. He sees his name in the newspaper, gets invited to family dinners where we talk about our foundation's impact. He's happier now than he's been since his wife died. I'm basically providing a public service. Providing a public service by stealing from a widower. What if he finds out? How? He'd have to suddenly develop the investigation skills of a detective, the financial literacy of an accountant, and the social connections to verify anything I've told him. Plus, he'd have to be willing to destroy his relationship with his only son over money. She paused. I could hear her moving around, probably pacing. And honestly, even if he figured it out somehow, who's going to believe him? Sweet, charitable Brittany Morrison, pillar of the community, versus paranoid old James with his wild conspiracy theories about stolen money. God, you really have thought this through. I have to. Michael's career is exploding right now. We need to be positioned socially for when he makes partner at the practice. This foundation story, the country club connections, the charity board appointments, it's all building towards something bigger. What happens when James dies? The question hung in the air. I felt cold. Then Michael inherits whatever's left of Dad's pension and savings, and we transition the foundation into a memorial fund. Honoring James Morrison's legacy becomes even more prestigious than having him around. Memorial fund, like I was already gone. I stepped away from the wall, walked back to my kitchen, sat down at the table where my wife and I had shared 37 years of honest conversations. $112,000. Simple blue-collar brain. Memorial fund. I picked up my phone and dialed information. Yes, I need the number for Ray Parker, Private Investigation Services. What Ray found in week 1 was just the beginning. Ray Parker had been NYPD for 28 years, before going private. Specialized in financial fraud, elder abuse cases. When I called him that Friday afternoon, my voice was still shaking from what I'd overheard. Mr. Morrison. Morrison, he said when we met at his office on Monday morning. I've worked with a lot of first responders over the years. Brotherhood doesn't end at retirement. We're going to figure this out. His office was small, professional, certificates on the wall, photos with police commissioners, district attorneys, a man who knew how to build cases that stuck. Tell me everything, he said. I handed him the stack of foundation newsletters, the newspaper clipping, printouts of Brittany's Instagram posts. Then I played the recording I'd made on my phone during that conversation. Ray listened to the entire thing without interruption. When Brittany's voice said, simple blue-collar brain, his jaw tightened. How long has this been going on? He asked. She said over a year. March of last year, I think. $8,000 a month. Ray was already calculating on his notepad. 14 months minimum. That's $112,000, matching what she claimed. Can you prove it? Mr. Morrison, financial fraud leaves paper trails. Always. If she's been moving $8,000 monthly out of your son's accounts, there will be bank records, transfer histories, account statements. He leaned forward. But I need to ask you something difficult. Are you prepared for what we might find? If your daughter-in-law has been stealing this money, it means your son either knows and is complicit, or he's been deceived too. I thought about Michael, my boy, who'd held my hand at his mother's funeral, who'd worked 16-hour days through medical school and residency, who'd married Brittany because she made him feel confident, sophisticated, successful. He doesn't know, I said. She's manipulating him too. Ray nodded. Then we need to be very careful how we handle this. If we move too fast, she'll destroy evidence and turn your son against you permanently. What do you recommend? First, we document everything. Bank records, Money trails? Verify that this foundation doesn't exist legally. Then we wait for the right moment to present everything at once. He pulled out a contract. My rate is $200 a day plus expenses. Most elder fraud cases take 2 to 3 weeks to build a complete file. I signed without hesitation. $600. Less than 1 day of what Brittany had been stealing monthly. One more thing, Ray said. Do you have access to any family financial information? Joint accounts? Shared documents? Michael gave me emergency access to their household accounts years ago, in case something happened to him during surgery. Ray smiled. Then we're going to start there. The first bank statement printout made my stomach drop. Citizens Bank, Michael and Brittany Morrison joint checking account. Monthly transfers of exactly $8,000 every 15th of the month, going back to March 2023. Transfer destination, B. Morrison Personal Investment Account. Not a foundation, not a charity. Brittany's personal account. 14 transfers, Ray said, highlighting each entry with yellow marker. March 15th, 2023 through April 15th, 2024. $8,000 each time. $112,000, I said quietly. Exactly what she claimed on that recording. The next documents were worse. Brittany's personal investment account showing deposits matching the transfer dates perfectly. Stock purchases, cryptocurrency investments, real estate down payments. Money being actively invested and grown, all under her sole name. She wasn't lying about the investment strategy, Ray noted. This money is being managed professionally. Current balance shows approximately $137,000. She made money on my stolen money. Your son's stolen money, technically, but yes, the final piece was the nonprofit database search. Ray pulled up the IRS registry, New York State charitable organization listings, federal tax-exempt status databases. Morrison Family Foundation, he typed into each search. No results, no results, no results. It doesn't exist, Ray said. Anywhere. No legal entity, no tax filings, no registered nonprofit status. The foundation's completely fictional. I stared at the computer screen. All those newsletters, all those Instagram posts, all those charity board appointments, built on absolutely nothing. So what's our next step? Ray gathered the documents into a neat pile. We let her keep going. Christmas is in 3 weeks. If she's as socially ambitious as she appears, there will be holiday charity events. Country club galas, public opportunities where she'll be promoting this fake foundation. You want her to keep stealing? Mr. Marshall with them, babe. Morrison, the bigger the stage when we expose her, the more complete her social destruction will be. And the more witnesses we have, the harder it becomes for her to claim this was all a misunderstanding. He handed me a business card. There's a Christmas charity gala at Westchester Country Club on December 23rd. 200 of the county's most prominent families. I checked the guest list. I looked at the card. Elegant script, gold embossing. Brittany Morrison is listed as a featured speaker, Ray continued, representing the Morrison Family Foundation. Perfect. But Brittany's reaction told me she knew something was wrong. I started small, subtle, testing her defenses. Tuesday morning, December 5th, I called the number listed on the Morrison Family Foundation letterhead, the one printed in elegant gold script under my supposed title as founding board member. A generic voicemail picked up. You've reached the Morrison Family Foundation. Please leave a message and we'll return your call within 48 hours. No specific address, no staff names, no mention of actual charitable programs. I left a message. This is James Morrison. I'm calling to verify some donation records for my tax preparation. Please call me back at your earliest convenience. 48 hours passed. No return call. I tried again Friday. Same voicemail, same promise of a callback within 48 hours. Ray had been right. The foundation was a shell. A phone number connected to nothing. Saturday night, family dinner at Michael and Brittany's house. I waited until we were seated, until Brittany was relaxed and confident, before I mentioned my calls. I've been trying to reach our foundation office, I said casually, cutting into my steak. The phone number on the letterhead. No one's returning my calls. Brittany's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Oh, the office number, right. I need some documentation for my taxes. Donation receipts, disbursement records. Standard stuff. Michael looked up from his plate. That's a good idea, Dad. We should all have copies for our records. Absolutely. Brittany said quickly. It's just this time of year, holiday season. The administrative staff is probably overwhelmed with year-end reporting. Administrative staff for a foundation that didn't exist. How many people work in the office? I asked. Oh, it's a small operation, very lean. We believe in directing funds toward actual charitable work rather than overhead. That's smart, Michael said. What's our overhead percentage, honey? Brittany took a sip of wine. Very low, under 15%. Most foundations run much higher. I nodded appreciatively. Impressive. And where's the office located again? A pause. Just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. Downtown White Plains, she said. Small suite. Very modest. Again, we prefer directing money toward actual impact. What's the address? I'd like to stop by next week. Oh, James, that's not necessary. Everything can be handled by phone or email. The staff is very efficient. I'm sure they are. But I'd like to see where my money is being managed. Old habit from the fire department. Always verify safety protocols in person. Michael laughed. It's an office, not a burning building. Same principles apply, I said. Trust but verify. Brittany set down her wine glass. James, I think you're overthinking this. We've been managing the foundation perfectly well for over a year now. There's no need to micromanage every detail. Micromanage. Interesting word choice. I'm not trying to micromanage, I said calmly. I just want to understand how my legacy is being stewarded. Your legacy is being stewarded beautifully, she said, her voice getting slightly sharper. The community impact has been significant. The networking opportunities have been incredible. Everyone at the country club speaks so highly of our family's generosity. Everyone at the country club. The one that costs $45,000 a year to join. That's wonderful, I said. How exactly are we measuring community impact? Do we have metrics, outcome reports, beneficiary feedback? Michael was watching this exchange with growing interest. Those are good questions, honey. Do we have annual reports or anything like that? Of course we do, Brittany said. It's all very professional. James, I'll have everything emailed to you next week. Perfect. And the office address? Another pause, longer this time. 15 Main Street, Suite 204, she said finally. I pulled out my phone, started typing. Let me just map that for my visit next week. James, really, a visit isn't... Google Maps shows 15 Main Street as a Starbucks, I said, looking at my screen. Silence. Michael looked confused. Maybe it's a different 15 Main Street? White Plains only has one Main Street, I said quietly. Brittany's face was flushed now. The mapping services are often wrong with suite numbers. Commercial buildings, The address system can be confusing. I drove by today, I lied smoothly. Didn't see any professional office signage. James, Brittany said, setting down her fork entirely. I'm starting to feel like you don't trust me. Perfect. Let her feel defensive. It's not about trust, I said. It's about understanding. For 14 months, I've been signing my name to charitable giving that I know nothing about. That's not personal. That's just good stewardship. You've been fully informed every step of the way, she said. Have I? Can you tell me the names of 3 organizations we've supported this year? Another pause. Michael was watching his wife carefully now. The details are all in the annual report, Brittany said, which I haven't received yet, because it's not finished yet. What about quarterly reports? Monthly updates? Anything that shows where our money is actually going? James, you're being unreasonable. I'm being responsible. Michael set down his fork. You know what? Dad's right. We should have better documentation. Honey, can you send us both copies of all the foundation paperwork? Incorporation documents, tax filings, donor reports, everything? Brittany stared at her husband. Michael, you've seen all the important documents. Actually, I haven't. I've seen tax write-off confirmations, but not the operational details. I watched Brittany's carefully constructed confidence begin to crack. Her Instagram posts suddenly made sense. All style, no substance. Beautiful photos with vague captions about community impact and family legacy. Fine, she said, standing up abruptly. I'll gather everything together. But I have to say, this feels like a very hostile way to treat someone who's been volunteering her time to manage your charitable giving. Volunteering her time to steal $112,000. I appreciate everything you've done, I said sincerely. I just want to understand it better. She left the room. Michael and I finished dinner in awkward silence. As I was leaving, my son walked me to the door. "Dad," he said quietly, "has something happened? You seem different tonight." I looked at my son, this brilliant, hard-working man who'd trusted his wife completely. "Michael," I said, "do you remember what I taught you about investigating fires? Follow the evidence, not the explanations." "Exactly. Sometimes the prettiest explanations hide the ugliest truths." He frowned. "What does that mean?" "It means I love you, and I want to make sure our family's money is being used the way we intend." I drove home thinking about Brittany's reaction, the defensive anger, the evasive answers, the fictional address. Ray had been right. She was getting nervous, but she had no idea what was coming December 23rd. Michael's face told me everything. Thanksgiving dinner, November 23rd, 1 month before the gala. I'd brought printed bank statements, foundation documents, and a list of questions I couldn't ignore anymore. "Dad, what's all this?" Michael asked, looking at the manila folder I'd placed beside my plate. "Research," I said simply, "about our foundation." Brittany tensed immediately. "James, this is Thanksgiving. Family time. Can't the business stuff wait?" "This is family business," I said, opening the folder. 14 months of family business. I pulled out the first document, a printout from the IRS nonprofit database search. "I spent some time at the library this week, learning about charitable organizations." Michael leaned forward, interested despite himself. "What did you find?" "I found that legitimate nonprofits have to register with the IRS. They have to file annual reports. They have to maintain public records." I slid the printout across the table. "This is the search result for Morrison Family Foundation in the Federal Nonprofit Database." Michael read it aloud. "No results found." "That's strange," Brittany said quickly. "Maybe there's a delay in the database updates." "The administrative processing can take months. I also checked New York State charity registration," I continued, pulling out another printout. Same result. No Morrison Family Foundation registered anywhere in New York. Michael's brow was furrowed now. "Honey, didn't you file all the incorporation paperwork last year?" "Of course I did." "There must be some administrative confusion. These government databases are notoriously unreliable." I pulled out the third document, bank statements with highlighted entries. "This is your joint checking account," I said to Michael. $8,000 transferred out every month for 14 months, always on the 15th, always to B. Morrison Personal Investment Account. Michael stared at the statements. "Personal investment account?" "That's just the holding account," Brittany said, her voice getting higher, "before the money gets distributed to actual charities. It's a standard practice for family foundations." "Is it?" I asked. "Because I called 3 other family foundations this week, asked about their disbursement procedures. None of them use personal investment accounts as intermediaries." The room was very quiet. Michael was studying the bank statements like he was reading surgical charts. "Honey," he said slowly, "show me the disbursement records. The actual donations to charities." "They're at the office." "Then let's go get them." "Michael, it's Thanksgiving. It's also our family's charitable foundation. If Dad has questions, we should answer them." I pulled out the final document, the newspaper article from November. "This interview you gave," I said to Brittany, "you talked about continuing my tradition of service and our family's community impact. But you never mentioned specific organizations we're supporting." Michael read the article. "Strategic charitable giving, substantial community impact, legacy of protection. These are all very general statements." "Marketing language," Brittany said dismissively. "You can't give away detailed financial information to newspaper reporters." "Why not?" I asked. "Most legitimate charities are proud to publicize their work. The United Way publishes detailed annual reports. The Red Cross lists every major donation. Transparency builds trust." Michael set down the article. "Brittany, I think Dad's asking reasonable questions. Can you walk us through exactly where our donations have gone? Specific organizations, specific amounts? Michael, I can't believe you're interrogating me like this." "I'm not interrogating anyone. I'm asking for documentation of our charitable giving, for tax purposes, if nothing else." "The documentation exists." "Then show it to us." "It's not here." "Where is it?" "At the foundation office." "Which is where exactly?" Brittany stared at her husband. "Downtown White Plains." "The address you couldn't find on Google Maps?" I asked gently. Michael looked between us. "What's going on here?" "Your father is having trust issues," Brittany said. He's decided that I'm somehow mismanaging the foundation. I haven't decided anything, I said. I'm just asking questions that any board member should ask. Where is our money going? How are we measuring impact? What organizations are we supporting? And I've told you all that information is available, but not here, not now, not today. No. Michael was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood up. You know what? Let's all go to the foundation office right now. Get the documents, clear this up. Brittany went white. Michael, it's a holiday. The office is closed. We have keys, don't we? Well, yes, but then let's go. The alarm system. Brittany. Michael's voice was different now, sharper. Either we have a functioning foundation office or we don't. Either there are financial records or there aren't. Either this is legitimate or it isn't. She stared at him. For the first time since I'd known her, Brittany had no answer. I think, I said quietly, we need to have a much longer conversation. She had no idea what was coming December 23rd. The Instagram damage control started immediately after Thanksgiving. Brittany went into full social media crisis mode, posting almost daily about family misunderstandings and generational differences in charitable management. Her first post, November 24th, sometimes the people who love us most ask the hardest questions. Grateful for family that holds us accountable to our values. Family first, #charitable giving, #blessed. 43 likes, 12 comments, all supportive. The second post, 2 days later, transparency is the foundation of trust. Working on updated documentation for our family's charitable initiatives. Excited to share our impact metrics soon, #nonprofit. Community, impact, #grateful. Ray had been monitoring her social media activity. She's building a narrative, he told me during our weekly check-in, positioning herself as the responsible, transparent foundation manager dealing with an overly suspicious family member. Will it work? Depends on how much proof we present when the time comes. The posts escalated through December, each one more defensive, more elaborate. December 3rd. Blessed to work with such dedicated board members who share our vision for community impact. Sometimes passionate people have passionate discussions. December 7th. Reminder that effective philanthropy requires professional management, strategic planning, and careful documentation. Grateful for the trust our family has placed in our foundation's leadership. #professional, #stewardship. December 10th. Some of the most successful family foundations started with honest questions and healthy debates. Iron sharpens iron. #growth. #family values. #charitable work. But the real counterattack came through her network of country club friends. Michael told me about the phone calls. 3 different women from Brittany's social circle, all calling to express concern about family drama affecting the foundation's reputation. Mrs. Patterson called yesterday, Michael said when we met for coffee. She's on the hospital board with Brittany. Said there were rumors about internal conflicts at our foundation. What kind of rumors? That you were questioning Brittany's financial management. That there might be irregularities? I sipped my coffee. What did you tell her? I told her that family foundations require careful oversight, and we were just ensuring proper documentation. How did she respond? She said the community has such respect for our charitable work, and it would be tragic if internal family politics damaged our reputation. Internal family politics, like asking for receipts, was political. The Whisper campaign intensified. Ray had contacts throughout Westchester County, retired cops, private security, people who heard things. Your daughter-in-law is working overtime, he reported. She's telling people that you're having memory issues, that you're confused about financial arrangements you made months ago. Memory issues. The perfect cover story for an aging patriarch questioning his family's money management. She's also suggesting that you're jealous of her social success, Ray continued, that you resent her elevated status in the community. Jealous of what? The country club membership, the charity board appointments, her networking connections. She's painting you as an old-fashioned man who can't accept that his daughter-in-law has surpassed his social standing. I thought about that for a moment. It was actually clever. Use my age, my working-class background, my relative social isolation against me. If I started making accusations about financial fraud, who would people believe? The sweet, charitable young woman with 12,000 Instagram followers? Or the cranky old firefighter who couldn't understand modern philanthropy? There's more, Ray said. She's scheduled 3 pre-gala interviews: local newspaper, county lifestyle magazine, and the country club newsletter, all focused on the Morrison Family Foundation's charitable impact. Building credibility before we expose her? Exactly. The more public her charitable persona becomes, the more devastating her exposure will be. But also, the more people will resist believing the truth. December 15th brought her most aggressive social media post yet. Grateful for family members who challenge us to be better stewards of our charitable mission. Sometimes wisdom comes from unexpected questions. Looking forward to sharing our impact metrics at the Westchester Christmas Charity Gala next week. Accountability, #growth, #charitable impact. The post had 67 likes and 23 comments, all praising her maturity, her grace under pressure, her commitment to transparency. One comment stood out. "You're handling this family drama with such class, Brittany." Some people just can't accept change. Family drama, like discovering financial fraud, was drama. "She's good," Ray admitted. "Very good. She's turning your legitimate questions into a narrative about generational conflict and family dysfunction. Will anyone believe us when we present the evidence? They'll have to. Bank records don't lie. IRS databases don't lie. But she's making it much harder for people to accept the truth." The final piece of her counterattack came December 20th. A group photo on Instagram, taken at some charity planning meeting. Brittany surrounded by 6 well-dressed women, all smiling confidently. The caption read, "Amazing planning session for next week's gala. So grateful for this incredible team of women who share our passion for community impact." The Morrison Family Foundation is blessed with such dedicated supporters. #teamwork, women in philanthropy, #Christmas Gala. Tagged in the photo, Mrs. Patterson from the hospital board, Mrs. Parker from the Children's Charity, Mrs. Williams from the Arts Foundation, and 3 other prominent Westchester wives. Her army, all positioned to defend her reputation when the truth came out. But Ray was right about one thing. The bigger the stage, the more complete the fall. December 23rd was 3 days away. The gala was in 72 hours, and I had everything I needed. Ray spread the complete investigation file across his desk. 2 weeks of methodical detective work, organized into 3 neat stacks. "Financial evidence," he said, tapping the first stack. "Bank records, transfer histories, account statements. 14 months of $8,000 transfers from your son's joint account to Brittany's personal investment account. Total theft, $112,000. I picked up the top document. Citizens Bank statement highlighted in yellow. March 15th, 2023. Transfer to B. Morrison Investment, $8,000. The first theft, marked clearly in black and white. Here's her investment portfolio," Ray continued, sliding another document across. "Current balance, $137,400. She's made $25,000 in profit on your stolen money. $25,000 in profit. She'd literally gotten rich off her crime." "Legal evidence," Ray said, moving to the second stack. "IRS nonprofit database searches, New York State charity registration records, federal tax-exempt status inquiries, all confirming the same thing. Morrison Family Foundation does not exist as a legal entity." The IRS search printout was damning. Entity, name, Morrison Family Foundation. Search results, no records found. Dated December 18th, 2024. Impossible to dispute. "And this," Ray said, holding up a thick folder, "is the county clerk's office search for any business entity named Morrison Family Foundation. LLCs, corporations, partnerships, sole proprietorships, nothing. So it's completely fictional. Completely. The only place Morrison Family Foundation exists is on her fake letterhead and her Instagram posts." "Documentary evidence," Ray said, tapping the third stack. "The recorded conversation from December 1st, her social media posts claiming charitable activities, the newspaper interview, and this." He handed me a printed email chain. "Correspondence between Brittany and the Westchester Country Club Membership Committee. She listed herself as treasurer, Morrison Family Foundation, and claimed your family donated over $50,000 annually to local charities." I read the email. Brittany's confident claims about our family's established pattern of community giving, and our foundation's growing impact in Westchester County. All lies. Every single word. The country club fast-tracked their membership application based on these charitable claims, Ray continued, waived the usual waiting period because they were so impressed by your family's generosity. Generosity that never happened. Exactly. She used fictional charitable giving to buy social status. Ray opened his laptop. I also found this. The screen showed Brittany's Instagram account. Scrolled back to March 2023. Her first post about the foundation. Excited to announce the launch of the Morrison Family Foundation, continuing a legacy of service and community impact, posted March 20th, 5 days after the first theft. She was celebrating her crime and building an alibi. Look at this progression. Ray scrolled through months of posts, each one more elaborate than the last. Photos of Brittany at charity events, quotes about family values, carefully staged images of foundation letterhead and meeting notes. 14 months of social media evidence documenting a fictional charity, Ray said. Every post designed to build credibility for a lie. What about witnesses? That's where this gets interesting. Ray pulled out a legal pad covered in notes. I interviewed 3 people who work at the country club. According to them, Brittany has been very active in charity planning committees. But here's the key detail. She never writes checks at these events. What do you mean? Charity auctions, donation drives, fundraising dinners. Brittany attends everything, talks constantly about your family's generous giving, but she never actually donates money at the events themselves. She always says the foundation handles contributions separately, through strategic partnerships and direct organizational funding. More lies, more elaborate explanations for money that didn't exist. I also spoke with 2 board members from the Children's Hospital charity, Ray continued. Brittany listed herself as a major donor liaison on her LinkedIn profile. They've never received a penny from Morrison Family Foundation. Because it doesn't exist. Right. But they assumed the donations were going through other channels. Brittany is very good at implying financial support without making specific claims that could be easily verified. Ray closed the laptop and looked at me directly. James, this is a comprehensive fraud. Financial theft, identity fraud, charity fraud, social fraud. She's been running multiple criminal schemes simultaneously. And my son? Based on everything I've seen, Michael is a victim too. He genuinely believes he's been supporting his father's charitable interests. She's manipulated him as thoroughly as she's stolen from him. I stared at the 3 stacks of evidence. 14 months of systematic crime, documented in excruciating detail. One more thing, Ray said. He handed me a single sheet of paper. The guest list for tomorrow night's gala. 212 attendees. The complete social elite of Westchester County. I scanned the names. Doctors, lawyers, business owners, politicians. Everyone who mattered in Brittany's social climbing world. She's scheduled to speak at 8:30, Ray said. Right after dinner, before the auction. She'll be standing at the podium representing the Morrison Family Foundation in front of everyone she's been trying to impress. Perfect timing. Perfect timing for perfect justice. Ray gathered the evidence back into organized stacks. Are you ready for this, James? Once we expose her tomorrow night, there's no going back. Her reputation will be destroyed. Your family dynamics will change forever. I thought about my wife. What she would have said about someone stealing from our family. Lying to our son, using our name for criminal fraud. I'm ready, I said. Walking into that ballroom, I carried 14 months of lies in a leather portfolio. The Westchester Country Club Christmas Charity Gala was everything Brittany had described in her Instagram posts. Crystal chandeliers casting warm light over 200 guests in formal wear, tables decorated with white roses and gold accents, a stage at the front with a podium bearing the gala's elegant logo. I'd worn my best suit, the one I'd bought for Michael's medical school graduation. Navy blue, slightly outdated, but clean and pressed. Ray Parker walked beside me, equally formal in his detective's version of evening wear. Remember, Ray said quietly as we found our table, let her speak first. Give her enough rope. Brittany was already working the room. She looked stunning in a floor-length emerald dress that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her hair was professionally styled, her jewelry sparkling under the chandeliers. She moved from table to table like a politician, hugging women she barely knew, laughing at conversations I couldn't hear. Michael stood near the bar, looking handsome but uncomfortable. He'd been quiet since our Thanksgiving confrontation, asking fewer questions but watching his wife more carefully. "There's our guest of honor," Ray murmured. Brittany had spotted us. Her confident smile faltered for just a moment when she saw the portfolio in my hands, but she recovered quickly and glided over. "James, you look so distinguished tonight. I'm so glad you decided to attend." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. "This is Ray Parker. He's been helping me understand foundation management." Ray shook her hand politely. "Mrs. Morrison, looking forward to your presentation tonight." "Oh, it's nothing special, just a brief update on our charitable impact this year. I'm sure it will be very informative," I said. Dinner was served at 7:30. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, wine that cost more per bottle than I spent on groceries in a week. I barely tasted any of it. My attention was focused on Brittany, 3 tables away, animated and confident as she entertained a group of prominent wives. At 8:20, the gala organizer approached the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're honored tonight to hear from one of Westchester's most dedicated young philanthropists. Brittany Morrison represents the Morrison Family Foundation, which has quickly become one of our community's most generous supporters. Please welcome Brittany Morrison." Applause filled the ballroom. Brittany stood gracefully, smoothed her dress, and walked to the podium with complete confidence. "Thank you so much," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the sound system. "It's an honor to represent the Morrison Family Foundation tonight." She looked radiant, poised, every inch the successful charity leader she pretended to be. Our foundation was established 18 months ago with a simple mission, continuing a legacy of service that began with my father-in-law's 35 years protecting this community as a firefighter. Murmurs of appreciation from the audience. Several people glanced toward my table, smiling respectfully. James Morrison spent his career saving lives and protecting families. Now, through our foundation, we're continuing that protection by supporting organizations that strengthen our community's most vulnerable members. More applause. I sat perfectly still, watching her weave truth and lies together seamlessly. This year alone, the Morrison Family Foundation has contributed over $100,000 to local charities, focusing on children's services, elder care, and emergency response support. $100,000, almost exactly what she'd stolen. We believe in quiet generosity, strategic giving, making sure every dollar creates maximum impact rather than seeking recognition for ourselves. Quiet generosity. I almost smiled at the irony, but tonight I want to share something personal, something that demonstrates why this work matters so much to our family. She paused, looking directly at me across the ballroom. My father-in-law, James, recently challenged us to be even more transparent about our giving. He wanted detailed documentation, specific outcomes, measurable impact metrics. The audience was listening intently now. At first, I'll admit, I was defensive. Here was this man who'd trusted us to manage his charitable legacy, suddenly asking hard questions about our stewardship. She was actually using our confrontation as part of her speech. But James was right to ask those questions. Because accountability makes us better, transparency builds trust, and tonight, I'm proud to present our foundation's first annual impact report. She held up a bound document. Professional-looking, full-color printing, the Morrison Family Foundation logo prominently displayed. This report details every donation, every partnership, every life changed through our family's commitment to community service. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Several people looked toward my table with approval, clearly impressed by this display of family unity and charitable responsibility. That's when I stood up. "Excuse me," I said, my voice carrying across the suddenly quiet ballroom. Brittany froze at the podium. "James, I'd like to say something about that report." Conversation stopped. 200 faces turned toward me. Ray remained seated, but his hand was ready on his own portfolio. "Please," the gala organizer said uncertainly. "Mr. Morrison, if you would like to speak, we can... This will just take a moment," I said, walking toward the front of the room. "I want to tell everyone about the Morrison Family Foundation." Brittany's face went white. "James, this isn't really the appropriate..." "Actually," I said, reaching the podium, "this is exactly the appropriate time." I turned to face the audience. 200 of Westchester County's most prominent citizens, all watching expectantly. "My name is James Morrison. I'm supposedly the founding board member of the Morrison Family Foundation, and I want to tell you the truth about our charitable giving. The ballroom was completely silent now. The truth is, the Morrison Family Foundation doesn't exist. Gasps from the audience. Brittany started to speak, but I continued. It's never been registered with the IRS. It's never filed tax returns. It has no legal status as a nonprofit organization anywhere in New York State. James, please, Brittany began. The truth is, for 14 months, my daughter-in-law has been transferring $8,000 monthly from my son's bank account into her personal investment portfolio. The gasps were louder now. People were leaning forward, straining to hear. The total amount stolen is $112,000. Money that was supposed to be charitable donations. Money that she's invested in stocks, cryptocurrency, and real estate. Money that's made her a $25,000 profit. That's not true, Brittany said, her voice cracking. Ray stood up from our table, portfolio in hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ray Parker, licensed private investigator. I have 14 months of bank records documenting every theft. The ballroom erupted in shocked conversations. The gala organizer looked paralyzed. I also have this, I said, pulling out my phone, a recorded conversation from December 1st. I pressed play. Brittany's voice filled the ballroom through the sound system. Girl, you have no idea how easy this has been. The old man doesn't even know we're donating his money in his name. The room went dead silent. We've been taking $8,000 every month for over a year now. Michael thinks it's going to charity. James doesn't think anything because he has no clue. Laughter from the recording. Gasps from the live audience. The man spent his whole life following orders in the fire department. He's got this simple, blue-collar brain that can't handle modern financial planning. I stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. That impact report she just showed you, I said calmly, documents donations that never happened, to charities that never received our money, from a foundation that never existed. Brittany was backing away from the podium now, tears streaming down her face. The only real impact, I continued, has been on her personal investment account and her social media following. People were pulling out their phones, some recording, others checking Instagram, others probably calling friends to share the news. I spent 35 years fighting fires, I said. Tonight, I'm just putting out the trash. Security appeared at the edge of the ballroom. The gala organizer was speaking urgently into his radio. James Morrison, everyone, I said, stepping back from the podium. Actually founding board member of nothing, but very grateful for your attention tonight. The applause started slowly, then built into a thunderous ovation. 200 people on their feet, clapping for the retired firefighter who just exposed the biggest charity fraud in Westchester County history. Brittany ran from the ballroom, her emerald dress trailing behind her. Michael stood near the bar, staring at me with a mixture of shock, horror, and what might have been relief. By Christmas morning, Brittany's Instagram account was gone, deleted sometime during the night of December 23rd. 12,000 followers, 4 years of carefully curated posts, her entire social media empire vanished. The Westchester Journal ran the story on Christmas Eve. Front page above the fold, local charity fraud exposed at holiday gala. The article included quotes from 3 country club board members, 2 bank officials, and Ray Parker's professional assessment of the evidence. Brittany Morrison was no longer listed as a member of any charity boards. Michael called me Christmas Eve afternoon. Dad, I'm filing for divorce, and I've already contacted the district attorney's office. How are you holding up, son? Honestly, I feel like an idiot, but also relieved. Something's been bothering me for months, and I couldn't put my finger on it yet. What's going to happen with the money? Ray says full restitution is likely, the $112,000 plus the $25,000 in profits. It's all documented too clearly to dispute. Christmas Day, Michael came over for dinner. Just the 2 of us, like the old days after his mother died. We talked about boundaries, about trust, about the difference between family loyalty and blind faith. I should have listened to you earlier, he said. You trusted your wife. That's not a character flaw, Michael. That's what good husbands do. But I let her manipulate me into doubting you. She's very skilled at manipulation. It's not personal. It's just what she does. The district attorney called December 27th. Elder fraud charges, identity theft, charity fraud. 3 felonies, each carrying potential prison time. Will she take a plea deal? I asked. most likely. Full restitution, community service, probation, but she'll have a criminal record. And this story's been picked up by regional media. Her reputation is permanently destroyed. New Year's Day, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside, a handwritten note on expensive stationery. James, I hope you're satisfied. You've destroyed everything I worked for. But I want you to know, I'm not finished with this family. Some bridges burn both directions. Dash B. I showed the note to Ray. Is this a threat? Hard to say, but I'd keep it, and I'd stay alert. I taped the note to my refrigerator, right next to a photo of my wife and son from happier days. Some people never learn, but that's their choice. I'd set my boundaries, established the truth, protected my family. Whatever came next, I'd be ready.